Hello, and welcome to day 27 of Business English 2. As you know, we are very close to the end of the semester. We will have class today, of course, and this coming Thursday, and then final exams are next week. Keep in mind that your final exam will cover 2 days, Monday, June 22nd, and Thursday, June 25th. It will be a 2-part exam. It will be 2 different parts. So on Monday, you will have part 1, and you will finish it. Then on Thursday, you'll have a completely different part of an exam. You will not see the questions from Monday again. So on Monday, you will finish the section you have on Monday, and then Thursday will be a completely different set of questions. Monday, you will have something very similar to an editor's challenge, where there will be a letter, and you will need to find mistakes, problems, errors. Some with formatting, which we will look at today, and some with grammar, spelling, punctuation, capitalization, word form, like the verb form, subject-verb agreement, or whether it should be a noun instead of a verb, maybe, or also a singular or plural problem. There will be also questions with sentence structure, sentence fragments, comma splices, and run-on sentences, where you will need to identify those mistakes and correct them. Okay, so make sure you are prepared for that. The exam will be live on Zoom, so you'll need to have your camera on so that I can monitor you during the exam, just like I would in a classroom. And the questions will be on Google Forms, similar to the midterm exam. I just got a new email from the university, and it looks like I need to go through it in more detail, but basically it looks like you will need to use your phone and computer simultaneously for the exam, meaning that you will take the exam on your computer, or desktop or notebook computer, and then you will need to use Zoom on your phone, and then position your phone so that I can see your face and your keyboard and your computer screen all at the same time. And obviously this is for security reasons. Because we're doing it online, there are some extra steps that we are required to take to prevent any kind of copying or cheating or sharing questions and answers with other students. And this is following the direction and guidance of the university. So I apologize if that's a little difficult for you, but check your connections and everything this week. Make sure you install Zoom on your smartphone so that you can access that next week and that you're able to log in. So make sure you go ahead and do that before the exam day so that you are prepared for that. And try to figure out how to position your phone, where you're going to put it. If you have a little tripod or some sort of little stand for it, or just leaning it against some books or something, so that I am able to see you and your computer during the exam. Also, prepare your ID card. Make sure that you have that with you as well. We are, from the email I received from the university, we are required to check those as well during the exam. So make sure you prepare everything so that there are no delays or problems during the exam. And remember, for this class, it is a 2-part exam, Monday and Thursday. Okay? So I told you a little bit about Monday. On Thursday, it will be more multiple choice questions, maybe a few short answer. Again, vocabulary, and that is comprehensive or cumulative for the entire semester. Okay, going all the way back to the very beginning. So there will be questions about vocabulary, grammar, subject-verb agreement, capitalization, spelling, maybe even penmanship, sentence structure, again, using sentence fragments or correcting sentence fragments, run-on sentences, and comma splices, using conjunctions properly to form compound sentences, and make sure that you use punctuation correctly. For example, if you have a conjunction, make sure you have a comma before the conjunction. All right, so it will be a pretty comprehensive exam, so make sure you are prepared for that. Okay, we've been looking at this writer's workshop, and last time we went through the questions on here, and then I mentioned to you about the writing plan here, the opening, the body, and the closing. Today I want to look at the last page on this figure 5.1. I asked you to take a look at this letter and read through it before today's class. So let's look at it in more detail. And this is figure 5.1. Figure just means like an image, some sort of graphic that they're using in a book or on a presentation. And this is an information request. Okay, so let me zoom in on this a little bit more. And at the top here, we have the name of the company it is from. This is the company the letter is written from. It's Graphic Pros. And if you notice the address here, we've got the address. We have a fax number, a voice, which is just a regular phone number, and then their website. So the street address, and this is the way you'll see American street addresses written, 264 South Halsted Street. A lot of streets are north or south or east or west, depending on which direction the street is running. Chicago Heights, that's the city. IL, we've talked about these before. IL is the 2-letter abbreviation for the state of Illinois. It ends in an S, but the S is silent. We do not say Illinois. At least some people do, but they shouldn't. It's Illinois. And notice this is Chicago Heights. Chicago Heights is like a neighborhood of Chicago, or like a suburb, I guess. The city of Chicago is just Chicago, Illinois. This is Chicago Heights, Illinois. 60412. That is what we call the zip code. Every city, location in the U.S. has a 5-digit zip code. 5 numbers. Okay? In Korea, you used to have a 6-digit zip code. And then several years ago, they actually changed it to just a 5-digit zip code here in Korea. So they actually made it shorter here, which in the U.S., we have a 5-digit zip code, but now we actually have a zip code plus 4. So you might see something like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 dash 6, 7, 8, 9. If you only have the first 5 digits, that's okay. The letter will get delivered. The last, they'll have a dash, a hyphen, and the last 4 digits, that's a more precise location. And in the U.S., if you receive a piece of mail, usually you'll see that written on there. But like if I send something to my dad's house, if I have a package delivered, I never used it. I don't even know what this is for my dad's house. I just use the first 5 digits. Okay? Alright, so we have the top part of the letter here identifies the sender, who it's from. Then we have the date here. This is March 5th. And notice how we do this. Month, day, comma, year, 2000 something. It's addressed to Ms. Kesha Scott. Ms., remember we've talked about, could be a married or a single woman. And that is pronounced Ms. Okay? Not Miss, not Mrs., but Ms. Ms. Kesha Scott. Micro Supplies and Software, that's the name of her company. P.O. Box 800, Fort Atkinson, WI. And notice here we have that 5 plus 4 zip code. P.O. Box, P.O. Box, that's a post office box. Post office box, that just means that instead of delivering the mail to your home or to a business, inside the post office they have boxes that you can rent. Be like a monthly or maybe annual fee to pay for that box, and then you would need to go to the post office yourself to pick up your mail. Some people do that for their home mail because it's actually more convenient or safer than having mail left at their home. That way, for example, if they travel, if they're on a trip, a thief could not tell that they did not pick up their mail at their home because their mail is only at the post office. So some people do it more for security, or like at my sister's house, the mailbox is across the road, and it's a very busy road and kind of dangerous to cross the road to get the mail. So she uses a post office box. It's at a separate company, a UPS store actually, but it's the same idea, a personal mailbox, instead of having the mail delivered to your home. And a lot of companies, businesses use these as well. It just means that you get the mail at the post office. And you can write it like this, capital P period O period, or you could just write P.O. box without using the periods. P.O. box means post office box. When we say it, we can just say P.O. box. We don't have to say post office box. P.O. Box 800, Fort Atkinson, WI. WI is the two-letter abbreviation for the state of Wisconsin. Okay? And then the 9-digit zip code. Dear Ms. Scott. So notice we start here, dear. It's kind of a formal greeting, but that's common, that's standard. Ms. Scott. So we use Ms., her title, and then her last name, not her first name. Okay, this is a business letter. So Dear Ms. Scott. Leave out her first name. Dear Ms. Scott. And then the punctuation here is a colon. Okay? Subject, availability and price of equipment security devices. So notice here, this is kind of like the subject line of an email. When you send an email to somebody, you have a subject line. That's kind of what the purpose of this is. And we can write the word subject, colon, and then this does not need to be a complete sentence. It doesn't need a period at the end because it's not a sentence. It's just the topic. Okay? Subject, availability and price of equipment security devices. And this just summarizes the main idea. This just gives them a brief summary of what the letter is about. The topic, the subject. Then we have the body of the message here, the opening. The opening of the message is please provide information and recommendations regarding security equipment to prevent the theft of office computers, keyboards, monitors, faxes, and printers. So they have computer workstations, okay? And they need security equipment to prevent the theft of this office equipment. Computers, keyboards, monitors, faxes, and printers. So, we immediately, the very beginning of the letter, we introduce the purpose. Why are you writing? What's the purpose of this letter? Our office now has 18 computer workstations and 6 printers that we must secure to desks or counters. Answers to the following questions will help us select the best devices for our purpose. Okay? So this explains why we need the information. This line tells us the purpose, why are we writing, and this explains why. Okay? The need for the information. So basically this place has computers, 18 workstations for employees, something like this, where they have a computer, and in these desks, the computer would be in the box here. Notice there's a key there to secure it. Keyboards, monitors, these look like wireless mice. These are similar to the computer workstations in your classroom that we're not using, where they're secured. And those actually, like the monitor, folds down inside and can be locked. But the computer itself and everything is locked in place, so nobody can steal it, so nobody can take it, to prevent theft. Otherwise, if you have a large office, it would be easy, relatively easy, for somebody to take a keyboard, a mouse, a monitor, maybe even the computer itself, if it's small enough. So this secures them in place. It locks them in place. And they've also got some printers that they need to somehow fasten, to attach to tables or desks. Okay, they say secure to desks or counters, like a counter, like a table of some sort. Answers to the following questions will help us select the best devices for our purpose. Number 1. So we've got 3 questions here, 1, 2, and 3. Number 1, what device would you recommend that can secure a workstation consisting of a computer, monitor, and keyboard? So again, something like what you have in the classroom, or like the picture we just looked at. What would you recommend to secure a computer, monitor, and keyboard? What can we use? Number 2, what expertise, what special skills, what expertise and equipment are required to install and remove the security device? So is this something that anyone can do? Do we need somebody with some special tools or equipment or training? Do they just need a screwdriver? Do they need a drill? Do they need some special kind of installation device? What kind of skill or training do they need to put them in and also to remove them? Maybe when we change computers or we rearrange the office, we need to be able to remove them as well. Number 3, how much is each device? How much do they cost? Do you offer quantity discounts? And if so, how much? For example, right now they have 18 computer workstations. But let's say they get a discount if they buy 20. So instead of just buying 18, maybe they go ahead and purchase 20 devices and save money. And that way, they've also got a couple of extra if they expand the office, if they hire more employees, or if something gets damaged or broken, or they want to put something in another location. They've already got a couple of backups. So it might be cheaper for them to purchase 20 instead of 18. Let's say if they got a 10% discount. Okay? So this section groups open-ended questions into a list for quick comprehension and best feedback. So that's the list here, 1, 2, 3. Makes them very easy to read, and that way it helps them when they answer the questions to make sure that they answer everything completely. An open-ended question, do you know what that means? A closed-ended question, you can just answer yes or no. Okay? Did you eat lunch? Yes. No. Very short answer, closed-ended. But if you ask an open-ended question, you would say something like, oh, what did you have for lunch? Then they actually have to give a more complete, a more full answer. Okay? And lastly here, because our insurance rates will be increased if the security devices are not installed before May 12th, we would appreciate your response by March 20th. So, we need these devices for insurance purposes, because if we don't have them, the insurance company says, hey, your computers are not secure, it would be easy for an employee or somebody else to steal them, it's not safe, so you need to have these devices installed by May 12th. If you don't, your insurance rates will increase. Now, if we buy them on May 12th, that's not quick enough. We need time to order them, receive them, and install them, so they want their answer to the questions by March 20th. That gives them several weeks to get the prices, make a decision, place an order, and install them. Okay? And it's signed sincerely. This is a very common way to sign a letter, comma, Brent R. Barnwell, and notice his signature here, and then his name, his typed name are exactly the same, Brent R. Barnwell, and he's the office manager. Where does Brent Barnwell work? Where does Mr. Barnwell work at? What company does he work for? He works for Graphic Pros. At Graphic Pros, Brent Barnwell is the office manager. Where does Kesha Scott work? She works at Micro Supplies and Software in Wisconsin. So she's in Wisconsin, and Mr. Barnwell is in Chicago Heights, Illinois. Okay? All right. So let's look at another type of letter here. This letter that we just looked at was more to request information about these security systems. Let's skip down here and look at applying for jobs. Because for you guys, for everybody, whether you're just graduating university or you've been working for a while and you're looking for a new job, writing a letter to apply for a job is a skill that you may need, that you will need throughout your life. So let's take a look at this. Okay, the first thing we're going to look at here is called block style. And this deals with the formatting of the letter. The format is basically just what does it look like on the page. What appearance does it have? And that deals with the margins. Like you can see here, the margins is just the space around the edges. On this little Word document I have here, I have very narrow margins because I want to use all of the space. It deals with the font style, the font size, and whether you use any bold or underline or italics. It has to do with the spacing between lines and between paragraphs, and just how things are arranged. Okay, so this is figure C1, block and modified block letter styles. Okay, and this is the handout I sent you earlier. So let me zoom in on this a little bit more. It's going to cut off the top here. But this is called block style with mixed punctuation. And the purpose of this one is just to kind of show you the basic structure, the format, all of the parts and pieces of a business letter that you need. Now, obviously, when you're writing someone, you want to use, you want to be courteous, you want to be polite, you want to have good grammar, you want to have subject-verb agreement and proper capitalization. You want to use complete sentences. You do not want comma splices or sentence fragments or run-on sentences, but also it needs to have the right appearance on the page. What does it look like? Does it look correct? Does it look attractive? If you, for example, if you just typed everything together with no spaces between the sections, or if you typed the entire address across on one line, it wouldn't look right. And so people would think that you were not trained or not educated, that you didn't know how to write a letter. And actually they would be right, because those are basic skills when you write a letter. So this first section at the top here, we have the company name and we have the address. This is called the letterhead. It's at the top of the page, the head of the page. And let me zoom in. No, I can't zoom in. Okay. But if we look at this island graphics, actually, let me look at it on here. This is the handout you've got. It's a little difficult to read. For some reason, it didn't make a good copy. But if we look at this section here, the island graphics in the letterhead, it's $8.93 Gillingham Boulevard. Okay, a boulevard is simply like a big street. Honolulu HI, and then we have that 9-digit zip code. Then over here we have a phone number and a website. So 893 Gillingham Boulevard, and that's right here, Boulevard. A boulevard is just generally a boulevard. A boulevard is basically just a wide street. A larger street often has a little divider down the center with some grass or flowers or something, but a wider type of street. Honolulu, that is in Honolulu, HI. Where is HI? What state is that? HI is the 2-letter abbreviation for the state of Hawaii. Okay? Every state has this 2-letter abbreviation. HI, Hawaii. And then over here was their phone number and their website. This section here is called the letterhead. Okay? Now, what's this little picture called? This is Island Graphics. They've got a little picture of an island with a little palm tree on it. That picture that represents the company is called the logo, the company logo. All right, after the letterhead, you want to leave some space here, at least one blank line below the letterhead. Then we have the date line. It's called the date line. Month, day, comma, year. Okay, that's the normal format in the U.S. Month, day, comma, year. And then there are some blank lines. Here it says 2 to 10 blank lines. That's just to sort of make the letter look balanced. If you have a really short letter, then you would want to leave more space here so it looks more balanced, so that basically this part is in the center of the page. If you have a long letter, and this is a fairly long letter, then we just want a couple of blank lines here. Okay, 2 lines. Then we have the address. Mr. T.M. Wilson, President. We can put his name and title on the same line. Visual Concept Enterprises, 1901, Kamualai Highway, Lihu, Hawaii, 96766. Now, up here we have the letterhead. This is who's sending it. This is their address. This is who you're sending it to. And this is called the inside address. This is the recipient's address. But on the letter here, it's called the inside address. Okay? Mr. Wilson, who's the president of Visual Concept Enterprises in Hawaii. Then we'll leave one blank line. Okay? And then the salutation. That's the greeting. Think of the word salute in the military. When you greet somebody, you salute. This is the salutation, kind of like a salute, a greeting. Dear Mr. Wilson. So we have the word dear, his title, Mr., and then just his last name, Dear Mr. Wilson, and then a colon. Okay, the colon, of course, remember, is those 2 dots. Okay, that's the colon. Dear Mr. Wilson. Then we have the subject line, the word subject with a colon, and the subject line is written in block letter style, or is written in block letters. Okay? And that's the subject line. Then the next section, the actual letter itself, is the body. And again, we normally have the opening, kind of the middle part, and then the closing here. All of this together is called the body. Okay? Let's just read through this. This letter illustrates block letter style. Illustrates, shows, block letter style about which you asked. all typed lines begin at the left margin. So notice everything that you type starts right here. Okay? We don't move anything over. Sometimes when you write a paragraph or an essay, you would indent. Okay? Indent is when you leave this blank space here before something. In a block letter, you do not indent anything. Everything begins on this left margin. The date is usually placed 2 inches from the top edge of the paper, or 1 blank line below the last line of the letterhead, whichever is lower. So we've got the letterhead, 1 blank line, and then the date line. This letter also shows mixed punctuation. A colon follows the salutation, which we just talked about, and a comma follows the complimentary close. Down here where we say sincerely, that's called the complimentary close, and there's a comma there. Often, open punctuation requires no colon after the salutation and no comma following the close. However, open punctuation is seldom seen. So, there's a style called open punctuation. There's no colon, no comma. Don't do it. It looks stupid. Okay? We don't use that, so just forget that part. If a subject line is included, and here we have a subject line, it appears 2 lines below the salutation. It says 2 lines below. The first line below is blank, so it's the second line below. We leave a blank line here. We leave a blank line between each paragraph. Okay? The word subject is optional. Most readers will recognize a statement in this position as the subject without an identifying label. So you wouldn't have to write the word subject here. Okay, you could leave that off. You could just say, write the subject without labeling it. Most readers will recognize a statement in this position as the subject without an identifying label. And then the complimentary close appears 1 blank line below the end of the last paragraph. So the end of the paragraph, blank line, complimentary close, sincerely, comma. And then we have the written signature, handwritten in cursive, and then the signature block. Mark H. Wong, and then his job title, graphics designer. So the handwritten signature, his typed name, and his title, all these 3 things, that's the signature block. Okay, all of this together. That's the signature block. Now, we need space here for him to sign his name, and that's 3 blank lines. So after the word sincerely, comma, you would actually hit enter 4 times. Enter, enter, enter. That takes us here. Enter, 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 enter. Okay, that will leave 3 blank lines. That's room for him to sign his name. And then we can leave a blank line below that. And you'll see here MHWPIL. This would be if you had an assistant or a secretary, if they type the letter for you. MHW, that's his initials, Mark H. Wong, colon, PIL in lowercase, that would be the initials of the person who actually typed the letter for him, like his secretary or assistant or something. Okay? If you're typing your own letter, you do not need this. And then we have the word enclosures. Notice here it says enclosed are examples for your inspection. So we're putting something with it, not just the letter, but putting some other document, a price list, an inventory list, pictures, whatever other documents are in there. That would be, if it's 1 page, enclosure, more pages, enclosures. You're enclosing them in the envelope. You're including them with it. Okay? So, these are the parts of a business letter. Let's review them again. Letterhead. So we have the company name, address, contact information, and the company logo. letterhead, date line, inside address, that's who it's going to, salutation, that's the greeting, dear, title, last name, colon, subject line, the word subject, colon, all block letters. The body, normally this is 3 paragraphs, sort of a little opening, the main part, and then the conclusion. It could just be 1 depending on what you're writing. It could be longer than this. Complimentary close, sincerely, comma, 3 blank lines, and then the signature block. Signature, typed name, these have to match, job title. Blank line, are there any enclosures? Okay? So that's the basic format. This will be on the exam next week. Okay? Now, this also talks about modified block style down here at the very bottom. In the bottom left corner, it says modified block style with mixed punctuation. In the modified block style letter shown at the left, the date is centered or aligned with the complementary close and signature block, which start at the center. So basically, if you took a piece of paper, I'm sorry, it's disappearing. If you took a piece of paper and folded it like this crease would give you the center. Okay? If you start typing at that center point, that's what you do on the modified block style. Up here, the date line, and then the complementary close and the signature block are at that middle point. Okay, that's what they're talking about here. The date and the complementary close and the signature block start at the center. Mixed punctuation, that's still the same. Includes a colon after the salutation, right here, a colon, and a comma after the complementary close. So you still have a colon and a comma. Repeat those words. Colon, comma. Colon, comma. Okay? And that's the same whether you do this modified block style or the regular block style. Sorry. Or the regular block style like this. Sorry, I was going the wrong direction in the slides. Okay, so regular block style, mixed punctuation, or modified block style, mixed punctuation. Okay, so we looked at this one, the request for information from Graphic Prose. What are the parts of this business letter? Up here, Graphic Prose, street address, city, state, zip code, contact information. This is the what? The letterhead. There's no logo on here. We just have the name and address. March 5th, date line. Ms. Kesha Scott, Micro Supplies and Software. The person it's going to. This is the inside address. Dear Ms. Scott, salutation. Subject line. Body. Notice after the salutation we have a colon. Dear Ms. Scott, colon. Notice dear, title, last name only, colon. Subject line, body. Blank line, complementary close, comma. Signature block. Signature, typed name, these should be the same, Brent R. Barnwell, Brent R. Barnwell, job title. Okay? So this letter is also in block style. Everything that's typed begins on that left margin. Okay. Now, if we look at a letter of application, that's if you're applying for a job, which we often call a cover letter. You would have your resume listing your education, your work experience, everything. You don't just send your resume all by itself. You would want something to include with that, to introduce your own cover letter, or to introduce your own resume. We call that a cover letter because it comes first. It goes on top. It covers the resume. So the cover letter is your letter of introduction, okay? And this example uses what they call personal business style. So let's take a look at this cover letter. And in your handout, this is figure C2, and they call this a personal business style. This is similar to the modified block style, where we have the date here, and the complementary close, and the signature block, all beginning at the very center. Okay, but notice though, this is personal business style. This is not sent from a company, so there is no letterhead. Okay, this one does not have a letterhead. It just has the address of the person sending the letter. It doesn't include a company letterhead. Okay, let me zoom in a little bit here. This address it's kind of where the letterhead would normally be, but this is the address of the sender. Okay, what do we call that? The sender's address when it's on a letter like this. Well, if you look at an envelope, like we looked at the manila envelope, this is the recipient's address, their name and address. This is the person who's sending it. So, and that goes in the top left corner here. What do we call that? Well, let's imagine that you send the letter and you forget to put a stamp here, or this person has moved, or the business has closed, or you've got the address wrong and they cannot deliver it. What do they do with it? Well, if you put your address here, they can return it to you. They'll send it back to you. So that is called the return address. Okay? So, up here you have the return address. You don't need to put your name here because your name is down here. Okay? So this is sent by Donald W. Vinton, and this is where he lives. 2230 Turtle Creek Drive, Monroeville, PA 15145. PA is the two-letter abbreviation for the state of Pennsylvania. PA, Pennsylvania. 2230 Turtle Creek Drive, Monroeville, PA, Pennsylvania 15146. And then the date line. Notice there's no blank line here. Okay? These all go together, May 29th, 2000 something. So this includes the street address, the city, the state, the zip code, and the date, but not the name. Because, again, the name is down here. Alright, so we don't put the name here and here. This does not have a letterhead because it's a personal letter. Okay? So it's not coming from a company, from a business. Then we have the address here, Mr. Richard M. Janis, Vice President of Operations, Sports World, Inc., 4807 Allegheny Boulevard. Remember, Boulevard's like a big, wide street. Pittsburgh, PA, 16103. PA, of course, Pennsylvania. So both of these cities are in the state of Pennsylvania. I don't know how far apart they are, but they're both in the same state. Pennsylvania is a pretty big state, though. Very large state. So, return address, date line, What's this called? Inside address. Dear Mr. Janice, again, greeting, title, last name, colon. Okay? This one does not include a subject line. Okay, and that's okay. You don't have to have it. And then we have the body here, just like before. Then we have the complimentary close, sincerely, comma, and then the signature block. Donald W. Vinton, signature, Donald W. Vinton, 3 blank lines here. And then there's a blank line here, and then enclosure, which means that something else is included with this letter. So let's read through the letter and see what he says. Today's Pittsburgh Examiner reports that your organization plans to expand its operations to include national distribution of sporting goods. And it occurs to me that you will be needing highly motivated, self-starting sales representatives and marketing managers. I have these significant qualifications to offer. So today's Pittsburgh Examiner, notice Examiner is in italics. So that tells us it's the title of something. Today's Pittsburgh Examiner, okay, it's today's, so if it's printed or published today, that's not a book, probably not a magazine or a journal, but what would be printed on a daily basis, or today, with today's date? That would be a newspaper. Okay? So, the Pittsburgh Examiner is a newspaper. Today's Pittsburgh Examiner reports, so it's a news story, reports that your organization, what's your organization here? Sports World Inc. Plans to expand its operations, it's growing, to include national distribution of sporting goods. Sporting goods. Uniforms, gloves, balls, equipment, soccer balls, baseballs, baseball bats, gloves, shoes, bowling balls, sports bags, sportswear, athletic wear, running shoes, soccer balls, tennis rackets, anything you use in sports, fishing equipment, hunting equipment, okay? All of that would be included in a sporting goods store. It occurs to me, I thought, if something occurs to me, I think, oh, you know what? They're expanding nationwide. They're going to need employees. It's occurred to me, I had a thought, I realized that you're going to need highly motivated, self-starting, so they can do things on their own. They don't need to be told what to do. Sales representatives and marketing managers. I thought, I'm interested in this job. I could do this. I'm going to write a letter to Sports World and say, hey, if you're hiring, please talk to me. I'm interested in working for your company. I have these significant qualifications to offer. So notice he introduces a list here using these bullet points. Okay, those little dots, they're like bullets, like boop, 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 boop. So those are bullet points. So that's a bulleted list in the previously numbered list. Okay, these aren't numbered, they're just bulleted. But we're introducing a list. So we use a colon here. Colons are very useful when introducing a list of items. The first one, we don't need to say number 1, but these bulleted items do improve the readability, and they can be blocked, which means they start right here, or they could be indented. Okay, you could move all of these over a centimeter. Okay, 4 years of formal training in business administration. Remember, formal training, official, structured, organized training, like at a university. Okay, if it's 4 years, this was probably a university degree. 4 years of formal training in business administration. And then a little more specific, including specialized courses in sales management, retailing, marketing promotion, and consumer behavior. So if you guys were writing a letter like this, you might say 4 years of formal training in finance and banking, including specialized courses in markets, insurance, taxes, accounting, okay? Some of these specialized courses you're taking. Next one, practical experience. Practical experience is real life, actual experience, not just theory, but actually doing something, hands-on. Practical experience in demonstrating and selling consumer products, as well as successful experience in telemarketing. Telemarketing, selling things by phone. Demonstrating and selling consumer products, maybe at a department store or somewhere showing people how to use. If you think like home shopping networks, they demonstrate how to use a blender or a vacuum cleaner or how to use new products. So he did some sort of sales here where he demonstrated and sold computer products. In the US, a lot of times this would be like selling, like I mentioned, selling vacuum cleaners or maybe a water filter or things like that. Showing people how to use products and selling them. And that's often done door to door. I don't know if this was, but possibly. The last one, a strong interest in most areas of sports and good communication skills. And then related to the communication skills, which helped me become a sportscaster at Penn State radio station, WGNF. WGNF, that's like on television stations here you have KBS, NBC. In the US, this would be one for a radio station. They always start with a W. Penn State, that's Pennsylvania State University. Penn State. Okay, they shorten it to Penn. Sportscaster, so he would be broadcasting baseball games, basketball games, football games. The announcer. Okay. Says here he has a strong interest in most areas of sports. Is that on a cover letter? Generally not. But what company is he writing to? What company is he hoping to work for? Sports World. So, is a strong interest in sports relevant? Absolutely, yes. He's interested in the business, in the market that they're selling to. So this is very relevant in this case. And he worked at this radio station, a sportscaster, so he's very familiar with certain sports at least. I would like to talk with you about how I can put these qualifications, that's the ones listed here, and others summarized in the enclosed resume. So, of course, he's including his resume. Notice it's the enclosed resume, which is why down here it says enclosure. The enclosure is the resume. To work for Sports World as it develops its national sales force. I'll call during the week of June 6th to discuss your company's expansion plans and the opportunity for an interview. So he's telling them that he's going to call. I would usually avoid contractions in a business letter like this. Instead of I would write I will call. Okay? Now, this is a little bit different letter. It's not an advertised position. There's an article about their expansion plans, but this is not a job advertisement. So he's just contacting them before they've advertised. That's what we call a cold call. That's when you contact somebody without a lead, without them contacting you first. It's just a cold call. Say, hey, I know you're expanding. You're going nationwide. I've got some relevant experience. I'd like to talk to you. Okay, that's a cold call application. Okay, now where does Mr. Vinton work right now? We know that he sold computer products, consumer products. We know that he did telemarketing. We also know that he did work as a sportscaster at the radio station. But where does he work now? We don't know. Is he still at the radio station? We don't know. Is he still selling consumer products? Is he still doing telemarketing? We don't know. He doesn't say specifically where he's working currently. Now, on the resume, that information would be given, but he doesn't mention that specifically in this letter. So where is he working right now? No idea. He could still be doing one of these other jobs, but we don't know. He doesn't say that. Because that's, and I'm guessing it's not one of these, or he would say that. I'm guessing that these are all previous jobs, not what he's doing right now. Or is he working at all? Is he unemployed? Maybe. We don't know. Okay, and that's the point here. We just don't know for sure. Okay? All right. So that's just a little bit closer view of that. I guess I could have used that, but I didn't. So I forgot I had that slide in there. Now this is an example of a poorly written cover letter. I'd like you to take a look at it, and we will review it in Thursday's class. Okay, some things you should not do. And this one that I have included is a similar letter for an advertised position that has some mistakes in it. And this is just something you can practice with. You can practice making corrections, looking for problems, okay? This one from John Smith to George Gilhooly. All right, so we will stop there for today. We've gone about an hour, so that's plenty long for the last week of class. Have a great day, and I will see you on Thursday.